How many of you have had experiences where when you let go of trying to get your desire, it came in, right? When you surrendered, when you gave up on it, when you said just forget it, it all of a sudden worked out for you. Why do you think that is? I'm curious to know. Actually, let me know in the comments. Like, why do you think that when you let go of your desire, when you stop trying to grasp it, when you stop trying to figure it out, it flows in? Okay, I'll tell you. It's because you finally got out of the way. So what we're going to talk about in this video is how you don't have to wait until you've reached every block, or you are exhausted and you are like frustrated. You don't have to wait to that point to get your desire because you just give it up. You can learn how to truly surrender now by letting go of the idea that there is a you. There is no you. Not in the way that you have been perceiving yourself to be. I want to start off with this quote from the Gospel of Thomas, which is a book that was not included in the Bible, but historians have been on the fence about whether or not this book was real. But either way it goes, there's so much wisdom in this book. And in the second line in the Gospel of Thomas, it says, let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled, he will become astonished, and he will rule over the all. So you who are watching this, you are seeking to know yourself, or you are seeking, and I shouldn't say or, but like, and you are seeking to express your truth in the form of living in an aligned reality, right? Living in a reality that reflects back to you your heart's desires, your soul's desires. And it seems as if you are seeking a solution. You are seeking maybe like the right book, the right person, the right video to finally make it all click for you. And I want you to kind of pause with me and realize, and I just want to make this very clear, that like, I don't have anything to offer you that you don't already know. I'm not here to teach you anything that you don't inherently already know. I only seek, or I only aim to be a mirror. I aim to put out my vibration so that those who resonate, are able to see this and allow the words to sink within them and reveal to them what words alone never can, right? Or what techniques alone never can. So I'm not here to give you anything that you don't already know. I am only here to be a reflection. I am only here to be a mirror to the truth that is already inside of you. Okay? So the truth that's already inside of you is that you know fundamentally that you are not who you have been perceiving yourself to be. You know that fundamentally. You know it because you've had experiences where you just can't explain them, where it seems as if the voice in your head kind of like vanished. And the best way you could describe it was like peace, bliss, love, right? You've used these words to describe these experiences, knowing that these words still don't quite touch what it is that you've experienced, but you knew that it was beyond you. It made you start to question yourself. It made you start to question the world. It because you're like, wait a minute, this is expansive, this is free, this is translucent, this is not anything that I've been taught about what reality is, the experience that you've had. And in a way, it's like you are seeking to get back to that experience in the form of changing your external reality, right? And this is where the you is, the false you, because the false you is on this quest to, if it shifts the external, then it'll be able to get back into that feeling that you experience in those states where you just can't explain exactly what it is, but you know the way it felt. So you are believing that, like, okay, if you get the job, if you get the car, if you make the money, if you get the thing, then it will absolutely put you back in touch with this feeling that you just can't explain. And you're not consciously doing that either. That's just the game of the separate you. That's the game of the false you. Because the false you lives in time. So it's always going to project what it is that you want in the future so that it can stay around, so that it can stay alive. And that is why when the false you is so alert and present and trying to control and manage your life, your desires seem to always be one step away. It's like you can see it, you can smell it, it's like right there, but for some reason, it just won't fully materialize. It's because the you that you have been taking yourself to be for a very long time, and it's just conditioning, keeps it in time. So that is why when you get to the point where you're frustrated and you're like, forget this, or you surrender enough, you relax enough, it comes, because the you finally gets out of the way, and it's no longer placing it in time. You're able to experience it now. There is no separate you. The idea that there is a separate you is a dream. You are imagining a separate you. You are creating separation where there is none through your perspective. And the way to get rid of the you, right? Because the separate self, which is just the mind's conditioning, never quite goes away, but the perspective does shift. What happens is the best way I can describe it, the best thing I can compare it to is an optical illusion. So you know how when you look at an optical illusion, right, you see one image, and then if you look at it long enough, and somebody even tells you, then all of a sudden you see a completely different image. Let me fix this because it's starting to shake a bit because the wind. I'm actually gonna have to put this down. Oop, sorry, I ain't mean to get y'all no freebies. I'm not even gonna complain about the lighting today, y'all. I'm not gonna complain. Oh, I am Beyond Taylor. If you're new here, I am Beyond Taylor, and I am here to help you go beyond your self-imposed limitations. Literally self-imposed limitations. They are imposed on you by your own imagination. And you are also imagining yourself to be separate. And the way to shift out of that perspective, which is just a perspective, is to remember that there is another perspective available. And the way to see that perspective, and that was what I was going with the example, it's like an optical illusion. So on one hand, you know, I posted about this on my channel the other day, where it's like the vase. We'll use that example. And also I'll even put a video. Actually, let's stay with the vase. So the vase example. In one hand, you see a vase. I'm going to tell you now, or maybe first you see two people looking at each other. And maybe if you didn't see one of the other images, your mind is going to start to go, okay, wait, where is it? Now, this, when you see it, when you see both images, it didn't come through anything other than a perspective shift. You didn't have to make it appear. You didn't have to change the image in order for you to see this. You just had to shift your perspective. Both images have always been there, whether or not you see both or not. They're there. The same thing with the shift in perspective of self-realization, of self-actualization. From one perspective, you see separation. You see distinction. You see me, you, me, bush, you, whatever it is, you, object, right? That's usually the common perspective of most humans, is they tend to see reality in compartments due to thinking. So we came into this world not having no thoughts. How do I know? Because we don't all speak the same language. We speak the language we were taught. We had to be taught concepts and languages and distinctions. We didn't come in like that. We came in with pure awareness, pure undivided awareness. But then eventually our nervous systems, this has a lot to do with the nervous system. I won't get too much into that, but our nervous systems became patterned to get acclimated with all of the contrasts. And then on top of that, right, because it's not just the mind, it's also our nervous system, but on top of that, we started to learn, right? I have a 1-year-old, so I'm doing this with my daughter. Oh, this is a leaf and this is green. That is the sky. That is a cloud. This is a hand. This is your nose. This is your mouth. These are your eyes. She didn't come in knowing that. And we're also in Thailand right now. So she's learning, they speak to her in English in Thailand. So, I mean in Thai, they speak to her in English and Thai. So when they're communicating to her, she's picking up on these words and using them now to view reality through that lens. So now before where she came into this world, this was a bundle of energy. Actually, it was her. She had no concept of me and tree, me and bush. None of us did when we came in. We had no concept of me and other. But then eventually, due to the way that our nervous system started to interact with the world, and it had to like solidify a separate identity so we could navigate through this, I like to call it a soup of everything, the soup of the infinite. We eventually got familiarized with the fact that, we are separate. We are other than. And if you are interested in self-inquiry and learning how to really dissolve the you, check out my 7-day free self-inquiry guide. It's how to tap into overflow by doing nothing in order to get everything, which is exactly what we're talking about in this video. Make sure you check that out. But we had to learn distinction. So that must mean that is not our original state, because we did not come into the world with this understanding that we were separate or that we were other. That was something that had to be learned. And eventually we forgot that was something that we learned, that is not our original state. We forgot because we've been so identified with it for such a long time that we don't even recognize that this other perspective shift is available for us, the perspective shift that we had when we were children. So when I go back to the line from the Gospel of Thomas where he says, let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. So let him who seeks to see this perspective shift in this way, seek until he finds. Seek until this intuitive truth dawns on you, and it will. If you are earnest, if you are dead set on breaking through the illusion of separation, this truth will dawn on you. And I realize that for a lot of individuals who have experienced this in this way, okay, I know y'all said I be tripping with the light. I'm telling you, the sun is like this way, and I don't want to turn it around, but I'm telling you, it just looks crazy. Okay, because I know the sun is behind me, so we're just gonna turn around a little bit. Okay, see, like, do y'all see what I mean? Okay, anyways, I just have to like go where the sun is. Anyways, so when you seek to have this perspective of union, of oneness, and it's just a perspective shift. It's really a perspective shift. And when you seek to have this perspective shift, you will find. You will find. It will dawn on you. It will be an intuitive knowing. It will be a knowing that you have already been in contact with. Like I said, you've experienced this before, or you wouldn't even be interested in what I'm saying. You've experienced this, where you've had these situations where you can't quite put words to it, and you can't quite explain what happened. And I'm sure the best words you had for it is like bliss, peace, love, union, oneness. But even that doesn't quite get close to what this is, right? It's the same as like trying to explain water to somebody that never felt it. We could say, oh, it's wet, it's warm, where we describe the temperature, it feels slippery. We could say all of these words, but these words are not the same as feeling the water on our skin. The same goes with self-actualization. We can say, oh, it's pure being, it's consciousness, it's God, it's love. We can say all these words, and then people spend their entire life searching for these things. But they're searching for the meaning instead of the experience. And the experience is not going to come through any technique. I remember, I love UG Krishnamurti because he is just so no BS when it comes to this realization, when it just comes to knowing the truth of who you are. And he has this book called Mind is a Myth. And in the book, I'm pretty sure it was Mind is a Myth, or the mystique of enlightenment. I don't remember which one it was, but he said something along the lines of, he grew up in India. His mother said that he was going to, grow up and be this great spiritual like person, right? So then from a very young age, his father began to bring in all of these like yogis and sages to come and teach him all the religious texts, right? He spent years meditating, yoga, everything. And he's like, I just wanted to experience enlightenment, pretty much. So he went all around the world, everything. And then eventually he calls it a calamity. He said it just dawned on him. Like it just happened. It just broke through, where he saw that there was no separation between him and his environment. And he said that everything that he said that he got that way despite everything that he did, right? So, and I was the same way. I would say for a very long time, I thought if I meditated enough, if I read enough, if I listened to enough people, then it will finally dawn on me, right? I'll finally be able to see this truth. I'll be able to, experience what I experienced even through psychedelics, right? Like I'll be able to naturally experience this if I do something. And even still, the psychedelics was me doing something. It's like I'm always trying to do in order to get to this truth. And it was when I realized that the self that was trying to do was actually not real, and it was the block. So like me trying to do was just keeping that self alive, because that self felt like as long as this separate self felt like there was something to do, then that confirmed or affirmed its existence. So I just prolonged what was already so evident, because I kept feeling like there was something else for me to do, and there wasn't. So he said, let him who seeks continue seeking until he find, which you will find through an intuitive shift. And when he finds, he will become troubled. You will become troubled, because what you will see is that there is no you. There is no you. There has never been a you. Not you in the traditional sense. Not you in, because if I ask you right now, who are you? What would you say? You would say, I am whatever your name is. Or because you saw this coming, you might say, I am consciousness, I am God, I am awareness, I am the everything, right? You might say that because you saw this coming. But even those words, as beautiful as they may sound, they are still superimposed with meaning. They are still superimposed with what you believe God is, with what you believe consciousness is, with what you believe imagination is. If you say, I am just imagining, I am dreaming, right? Cool. But they're still so superimposed with these ideas that you have about it, where this is who you actually are is beyond words. You actually can't say it. It's not graspable. But those words do the best. But I just don't want you to get caught up in saying, I am consciousness and I am God and I am love, without actually experiencing what that truly means. Because once you experience what that truly means, you will become troubled. Not you, the false you. The false you will go into circles, because it feels kind of like free falling. And there's so much fear that arises. And this is why nervous system regulation is important, because if the body goes into a shock, also, and I'm just going to say this, in the Course in Miracles, it says, God will only show us what we can handle. And it's mainly because our nervous system can only handle so much, right? We see what we are prepared to see, what we are comfortable with seeing. If I started to fly right now, it would be too much for your awareness, right? For your way of processing reality. It will send you into a kind of shock. So you God, you, wants to prevent yourself from going into this shock. So it kind of like spoon feeds you these realizations until you know the body is ready. Because once that happens, once you see, what does it say? You will become troubled. But not you, the false you. Because the true you is just going to be watching you become troubled. And that was the shift for me. Because for so long, I would avoid this. I remember the very first time I heard this message, and the conditioning was very strong. And it said, I don't want this. Even though for so long, I have sought this truth. I have been seeking this return to this perspective of oneness, of unity, of no division, right? Since I was a kid, I will say, I have been seeking that perspective, that union. And I feel like that's a common story with most seekers. I'm sure you had some experience when you were younger that, again, you've been trying to get back to. You've been trying to get back to this understanding that, like, wait a minute, like you know that the way that you are perceiving reality is just one out of many lenses. There's so many perspectives you can have, and I don't just mean for the false you. I mean on like different planes of consciousness in all the sorts. Like there's so many perspectives you can have, and you know that because when you were a kid, you remember that perspective, right? Most of us do, who are on this journey, which is why we begin to seek a spiritual solution, which is why we begin to become interested in these topics anyway. Because when I was a kid, I would say, I became really enamored with my thinking, right? Because at one point I was like, I didn't have thoughts, but now I have thoughts, and like, who is this thought? And I was like trying to chase my thoughts in my mind, because I would realize that like thoughts were happening very automatically, and I was like, but it sounds like me. And then I was like, but that's not me. And it was like these thoughts like fighting, and it was just this constant search for getting back to that point where there was no division, there was no separation. I share this a lot, but one of my first memories is when I looked in the mirror and I tried to get at the image in the mirror, right? I was trying to like hit it, and I was like, and then I realized that my hand was hitting something. So then I was like, oh, I put my hand behind the mirror, because I was like, oh, this must be a person. And then when I put my hand behind the mirror, it was nobody there. So then I said, and I looked in the mirror, and I started like doing stuff like this, and then it was doing what I was doing. And that was when I realized that was me. Right? The idea of union had got discarded right there. There was no longer the pure immediacy of experience. There was separation. Separation had been born. Okay? So that is what I've been chasing. And I know you have a similar story where you are chasing this, and when he finds, he will become troubled. When you find that there really is no you, it's going to be fearful, but for the separate self, for the false you. But then, like I said, this is where I had a trouble for so many years, is I tried to fight the fear, or the fear was so big because my body didn't know how to handle it. My body didn't know how to hold it. My nervous system was in such a dysregulated state that it couldn't hold the bigness and the expansion of this truth. Even when I would have glimpses. And I always thought it was because I was still so identified with my thoughts, when it was really because my body was still in such a high stress state. So the more that I started to tend to my nervous system, I started to tend to my body, the easier this realization became to hold this perspective, right? The easier it became to hold the perspective. Because when the fear arose of, I am not the self, there is no separation. I am dreaming. I am inside of my own mind. There is no separate me. I don't have free will. It's all happening on its own. When all of these insights dawned, when the separate self becomes fearful, it still happens, right? Fearful, and the thoughts are so loud, there is no longer a needing to go through the familiar cycles of how I usually respond to stress, because I've taught myself a new way to respond to these patterns. I've repatterned my nervous system. So that now the fear is no longer so scary. The feeling of expansion is no longer something that I run from. I welcome it, right? So that is what happens. You will become troubled, especially when your nervous system cannot handle the immensity of what you are starting to see. You are breaking down these false barriers that you are separate. That destroys your whole worldview, not just your thoughts, but your whole worldview. You will be astonished and you will rule over the all. Now, does that mean that you're going to become a puppet master and you're going to be doing all of this? No, what it means is that when it says you will rule over the all, it simply means that you will see that it is all happening within you. You rule over the all because it is all you. It's all a mirror. It's all coming, like without your awareness, there is no world. That's why they say there's 8 billion people, 8 billion worlds. Your world is only a world for you. This is what's going to help your desires flow in effortlessly. To come to this realization. And you see, I didn't really give you any techniques. The best technique I will give you is to question the nature of the self and don't trust any answer that arises, but watch it. What this intuitive perspective shift is going to call for is just a surrender. And you can't surrender when your body is in fight or flight. So like the techniques, sure, there are techniques that go into this, right? But the techniques are not about getting your desire. It's not about healing you. It's about remembering. Just remembering. So the more you begin to question, who am I? Who am I? What was my face before my parents were born, right? All of these different koans. But the one that I always ask is like, who am I? Who is it that's aware of this experience? Who is it that's aware of my thoughts? And I don't look for the answer in the form of a thought. I just remain as I am. And that's a practice. To just keep turning your attention to what is it that's aware right now. Before a thought arises in your awareness, there's the awareness itself, yes? So you want to just keep turning your attention to the awareness itself and not so much what you are aware of. And that is what begins to allow this truth to become even deeper within you. And then from there, everything just begins to take care of itself, and you find that you are right in the middle of a reality that you were once fighting for and calling in and struggling to attain. You no longer need to struggle to attain. The you gets out of the way, and then life is just able to flow as it has been. It's just you've been looking through the perspective of separation and you being the one that needs to do everything. When you start to look through the perspective of it's already working out and there's nothing you need to do, then you kind of just sit back in a way and just watch it, right? When people say Jesus take the wheel, yeah, Jesus is taking the wheel because Jesus has always been taking the wheel. You've just been under the assumption that you're the one doing it, and that's just not true. So I'll end there because we're already at 29 minutes. And yeah, sign up for self-inquiry guide to just get the questions to allow this intuitive truth to dawn on you. There's nothing you need to do in order to remember yourself, to know yourself. There just has to be a yearning and a deep desire. And through that, you'll see all of it unfolding the way it should. But that's all I got. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.